Macromolecules. Many of the carbon compounds in living cells are so large that they are known as macromolecules, or giant molecules. Macromolecules are made from thousands or even hundreds of thousands of smaller molecules. The smaller units, or monomers, join together to form polymers. The monomers in a polymer may be the same, like links in a chain, or the monomers may be different, like different colored beads in a necklace. Scientists sort the macromolecules found in living things into groups based on their chemical makeup. The four major groups of macromolecules found in living things are carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids, and proteins. Carbohydrates. Compounds made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms are called carbohydrates. There are usually twice as many hydrogen atoms as carbon or oxygen atoms in these molecules. Living things use carbohydrates as their main source of energy. Carbohydrates give plants, some animals, and other organisms structure. Sugars are carbohydrates. The breakdown of sugars, such as glucose, supplies energy for cell activities. Many living things store extra sugar as a carbohydrate called starch. Simple sugars. Simple sugar molecules are called both monosaccharides and simple sugars. Besides glucose, simple sugars include galactose, which is found in milk, and fructose, which is found in many fruits. Table sugar, sucrose, is made up of glucose and fructose. Since sucrose is made of two sugars, it is called a disaccharide. Key question: what are the functions of carbohydrates? Carbohydrates provide energy and structural support for living things. Polymerization. Most macromolecules are formed by a process known as polymerization. In this process, monomers join together to form polymers. Polymers can get very large. Complex carbohydrates. The large macromolecules formed when simple sugars join together are called complex carbohydrates. Many animals store extra sugar in a complex carbohydrate called glycogen. When the amount of glucose in your blood runs low, glycogen is broken down into glucose, which then goes into the blood. The glycogen stored in your muscles gives energy to muscles so that you can move. Plants use a different complex carbohydrate called starch to store extra sugar. Plants also make another complex carbohydrate called cellulose. Cellulose gives plants their strength and rigidity. Cellulose is the major part of wood and paper, so you are looking at cellulose as you read these words. Lipids. Fats, oils, and waxes are common lipids. Lipids are macromolecules that generally do not dissolve in water and are made mostly of carbon and hydrogen atoms. Some lipids store energy. Others form biological membranes, and some produce waterproof coverings on cells and tissues. Many lipids are formed when a glycerol molecule joins with compounds called fatty acids. If each carbon atom in a lipid's fatty acids is joined to other carbon atoms by only single bonds, the lipid is called saturated. This means that the fatty acid has the most hydrogen atoms it can have. If there is at least one carbon-to-carbon double bond in a fatty acid, the fatty acid is called unsaturated. You have probably seen the term saturated or unsaturated on food labels. Lipids that have unsaturated fatty acids are liquid at room temperature. Olive oil is one such lipid. What are the functions of lipids? Lipids are used to store energy and are parts of membranes and waterproof coverings. Nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are macromolecules containing hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, and phosphorus. Nucleic acids are polymers. They are made up of a monomer called nucleotides. Nucleotides have three parts: a 5-carbon sugar, a phosphate group, and a nitrogenous base. Some nucleotides, including adenosine triphosphate, help in storing and transferring energy. Single nucleotides can be linked by covalent bonds into long chains known as nucleic acids. Nucleic acids store and transmit genetic information. There are two kinds of nucleic acids: ribonucleic acid and deoxyribonucleic acid. RNA contains the sugar ribose, and DNA contains the sugar deoxyribose. What are the functions of nucleic acids? Nucleic acids store and transmit genetic information. Proteins. Proteins are macromolecules that contain nitrogen as well as carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Proteins are polymers of molecules called amino acids. Amino acids are compounds with an amino group and on one end and a carboxyl group on the other end. Covalent bonds called peptide bonds link amino acids to form one or more polypeptides. A protein is a molecule made from one or more polypeptides. Some proteins control cell processes and the rate of reactions. Others form important parts in cells, while still others move substances into or out of cells or help to fight disease. More than 20 different amino acids are found in nature. All amino acids are the same in the regions where they may be joined together by covalent bonds. This uniformity allows many amino acids to be joined to any other amino acid. Each amino acid has a different side chain called an R group. The side chains have different properties. Some chains are acidic and some are basic. Some are polar, some are nonpolar, and some even contain large ring structures. Because the side chains are so different, proteins are diverse macromolecules. Amino acids are joined in long chains according to instructions coded in DNA. Scientists describe proteins as having 4 levels of structure. A protein's primary structure is the order of its amino acids. Its secondary structure is the folding of the polypeptide chain. The third level of structure is the 3-dimensional arrangement of a chain. Proteins that have more than one chain have a 4th level of structure. The 4th level describes how the different chains are placed next to each other. Hemoglobin, a protein in red blood cells that helps move oxygen in blood, has 4 levels of structure. The shape of a protein is kept by many forces, including ionic, covalent, and hydrogen bonds. The Hem groups in the protein bind oxygen and also give hemoglobin its red color. What are the functions of proteins? Some proteins control cell processes and the rate of reactions. Others form important parts in cells, while still others move substances into or out of cells to help to fight disease.